welcome to Ag PhD. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Brian Hefty. Thanks for joining us today. Well, we are currently in an unplanted field, but there are a lot of acres that are already in the ground around the country and many that are up. So today we want to talk about a method you can use to find out if your plants have enough nutrients or if you're going to need to supplement them during the year.
Well, speaking of plants that are up, when we've got tough broadleaf weeds up in our soybeans, it's going to take some help for Roundup or Liberty or whatever we're spraying as a base product. We'll talk about some of the tank mix partners you can use to kill broadleaf successfully in your soybeans.
We've got a Weed of the Week coming up later in the show that's not technically Roundup resistant, but boy, Roundup has a tough time controlling it. I'll tell you what it is later in the show, but first, here's our Farm Basics.
Farm Basics is brought to you by the Liberty Link trait and Liberty herbicide from Bayer. The most reliable weed management solution, Liberty Link and Liberty herbicide are the link to efficient row crop production and sustainable weed management.
During our Farm Basics time today, we're going to talk about one of the most important things farmers look at during planting, and that's seed to soil contact.
We often hear farmers talking about, well, the soil is too dry to plant or it's too wet to plant, and you may think, oh, they're just whining. It's never going to be just right for them. But it really does create problems if it's too dry or too wet. And it comes back to seed to soil contact in many cases. What we want to get when soybeans go in the ground, when corn grows in the ground, or anything that you're putting in your garden, it'll be the same story. We want that seed to get in the soil, and we want the soil to be relatively firmly packed around that seed. This is what we call seed to soil contact. And you need the right amount of moisture in the soil, not too much, not too little, in order to get effective seed to soil contact.
So as soon as Darren starts bringing up, well, you need the right amount, not too much, not too little, you go, oh my goodness, how am I ever going to figure that out? Whether it's for my garden or for my farm, how am I going to do it? Well, first of all, don't get too worried about the too dry situation, because all it takes is a little shot of moisture and things are going to be fine. When you pack that soil around the seed, then what often happens is you get capillary action with the water in the soil. When we have that soil relatively tight around the seed, there's a lot better chance it's going to have enough moisture. Now, if you have too much moisture, that's a lot easier to figure out because you're going to have all kinds of issues. You can see where your wheels are sinking down in the ground. You're not opening the soil up very well to place the seed in. You can't pack the seed around it because it's so wet. So that one is much easier to figure.
All right, when we're thinking about planting, we want to have those conditions just right, because the important thing for seed is it needs to take water in and swell up a little bit, and then it can germinate and start growing. We get questions a lot of the time, well, how come some seed can just lay there and not really put on a sprout? Well, if we don't have enough moisture and we don't have enough warmth in the soil, it's just not going to grow. That seed is just going to lay there dormant until we get the right conditions. Just like it was sitting in a bag of seed at the grocery store or at the seed dealers. So when we put the seed in the ground, that's why we want that tight seed, like Brian said, capillary action. We need that seed to be able to take in moisture. And then the other key is we want every seed in that field to take in about the same amount of moisture so it can sprout about the same time. If you can get all the seeds up in a field in the same day, the seeds are going to be able to evenly compete against each other the rest of the season. If we have variances throughout the field where some seeds are taking in moisture, but other areas of the field we didn't get good seed to soil contact and that seed's just sitting there for a few extra days, all of a sudden we've got big plants and small plants scattered all throughout the field. And when we get great big plants next to little plants, the little plants often become just weeds. They don't even end up producing seed. So if we want to get maximum yield in our garden or in our field, that good seed to soil contact helps all those seeds get off to an even start.
Well, once again, seed to soil contact is incredibly important whether you've got a garden or you've got a large farm. You want to pack that soil in around the seed. I mean, we don't need to place it ridiculously firmly down there. You don't need 1,000,000 pounds of force on it or anything like that, but just tightly around that seed and you've got a lot better chance for good and even germination in your field.
Well, if you want to have good crop growth in your field, you need to control weeds like our Weed of the Week. Can you identify this week's weed?
Regalia RX biofungicide activates a plant's natural defense system, limiting the effects of disease and improving overall plant health. Regalia RX complements your fungicide program to optimize yield and strengthen return on investment. Ask your retailer for Regalia RX today.
Dirty work pays. That is if your dirty work includes a Soil Max Gold Digger tile plow, Soil Max tile plows feature zero deflection technology. With the only tile plow factory paired with Ag Leader's IntelliSlope control system, you eliminate the need for grade calculations and lasers. So make your next investment in a Soil Max Gold Digger. Better yield, longer planting and harvest windows, better water management is all yours with Soil Max. Visit soilmax.com.
Being a farmer means securing your land and livelihood for the future. Harvest Solutions from Capello USA have the grit to get you there. Our product lines for corn, sunflowers, and forage are designed for efficiency and longevity, preventing harvest loss while minimizing maintenance and downtime. To do everything you can to advance your farmland to the next generation, call us at 855-CAPELLO or visit us at capellousa.com. Capello USA, Italian craftsmanship, American grit.
I wish I could side dress more than just nitrogen.
You can. While side dressing is efficient for nitrogen applications, you can also use that opportunity to apply PK and the micronutrients your crop needs. AgroLiquid's Calibrate and MicroLink products allow you to nutritionally balance your side dress application efficiently and economically. Let agricultural liquid fertilizer help you make your next crop a bumper crop. For more info, visit agroliquid.com.
Wake up, breakfast is served. Your roots crave pea. Most of your applied pea gets tied up in the soil, a natural phenomenon known as phosphorus fixation. Fix the problem with Avail Phosphorus Fertilizer Enhancer. Avail makes more pea available to your roots, here, here, and here. Increasing pea availability can lead to increased pea uptake in the plant. That's more pea, and more pea. More phosphorus for your crop can mean more results in your bin. An average of 9.6 bushels per acre of corn. Breakfast is served. Supercharge your pea with Avail.
Your time is valuable. That's why you need a Hagie STS application system. Hagie STS products are designed for precision and efficiency, allowing you to make applications all season long with just one machine. Contact your Hagie rep today.
If you have broadleaf weeds in your soybeans and you have to kill them post-emerge, you don't have very many good options, especially if your main product like Roundup isn't working, you've got Roundup-resistant weeds. So there are many choices out there, but it comes down to which particular weed species are the worst ones in your field.
Right, and then the other thing is being very timely. So the nice thing when Roundup first came out and it was killing everything, it would kill everything at almost any height. So it didn't matter when you went out there in terms of weed control. Now it mattered in terms of yield, but in terms of weed control, boy, we had people spraying 2, 3, 4 foot tall weeds, taking them down, and they said, wow, this is fun, it's awesome, okay? If Roundup isn't working for you and all you have left is these other products, and let's face it, they're all 30 years old or more, you've got to mix one of those or 2 of those in with your Roundup. Guess what? Now the weeds need to be 2 to 4 inches tall, ideally, if we're gonna have good control and still have good yields.
All right, let's talk about some of those specific weeds and some of the specific products that we would recommend for each one. When you think about those 2 to 4 inch tall weeds, I remember back in the 1990s, before we had Roundup Ready crops, I would go to a lot of meetings and there would be chemical reps there talking about, well, you see that pop can that you're drinking right there? If a weed's taller than that, we don't have a prayer of controlling it. And wow, a pop can in height, a lot of the weeds, as you mentioned with Roundup, we've been killing much bigger ones than that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not only that height thing, it's also spray adjuvants. So when you were just using Roundup, all you had to throw in was ammonium sulfate because there was some adjuvant already in the Roundup. Well, guess what? The adjuvant in the Roundup is not the same adjuvant you're going to need to make almost any of these other products work. So if you throw anything else in, even if it's just a volunteer corn killer, if it's Flexstar, if it's First Rate, I mean, a number of these other products, they're going to need a different adjuvant package than just the ammonium sulfate.
Well, hold on. It's not just the adjuvants. It's the spray tips. When we're spraying Roundup, we want to have bigger droplets. We're concerned about drift. And all of a sudden, we're using turbo T-jets and air induction and these kind of nozzles. Well, they produce great big droplets. Now a lot of these tank mix partners that we're putting in are contact killers that need flat fan nozzles to get great coverage across that leaf with small droplets, and it's really tough because you're putting 2 different things in the tank, and then if you add in a fungicide, you add in an insecticide, well, hold on here, I don't really want great big droplets with a lot of these things. So you really have to look at what's killing the weed, when you're making these choices, because if you're spraying a Roundup resistant palm or pigweed, for example, and you're going to throw a Flex Star in, well, Flex Star needs small droplet size in order to work very well. If you're mixing it with Roundup, the Roundup needs big droplet size. Man, if pigweed is my concern, I better find a nice day where there's not much breeze so I can use a small droplet and get that Flex Star to work.
Okay, let's do this. Let's take some of these top weeds that are out there and kind of rank what our best options would be post-emerge. So let's start with palmer pigweed or water hemp. Any pigweed species, what's number one, what's number two, what's number three?
Well, I like Flex Star number one. I like Cobra number two. I like Cadet number three. Some people like the Cadet a little better, especially when you bump it up to like a 9/10 of an ounce use rate, you know, something really high. I like the Cobra just because, you know, it's going to kill a variety of other weeds. And unless you've got velvet leaf as your number two weed, in that case, I'd pick the Cadet.
Okay, lamb's quarters.
Well, lamb's quarters is easy. I like Harass. That's the best product out there for lamb's quarters. Some would say Raptor has a little more activity than the old Pursuit used to have.
No way.
But I just don't think it has nearly the activity Harass has.
So really, we don't have a lot of great options beyond Harass. Okay, talking about velvet leaf.
Well, velvet leaf is easy. Resource and Cadet are both very good, and they're labeled up to about 36-inch tall velvet leaf. So I don't want to see velvet leaf get that big. You're going to lose lots of yield. But if you have some velvet leaf in the field, even a lower rate of Resource or Cadet are great tank mix partners. Plus, if you're mixing them with Roundup and then you move to spray some Roundup Ready corn, Cadet and Resource can both be used in corn as well. So you really don't have to worry about cleaning out the tank as much as you would with some other products.
Common and giant ragweed.
Ragweed is a tough one because some of it is getting to be ALS resistant in addition to being Roundup resistant. I like First Rate by far the best as long as ALS type products work. If they're not working, then Flex Star would be my favorite choice for ragweed control.
Or Cobra. Cobra is also real good there. How about Mare's Tail? That's going to be mainly in a burn down situation.
Well, Mare's Tail is tough, and we used to think of that as strictly a winter annual, so it would be up early, we'd just have a really good burn down. Maybe we'd go with Gramoxone in the burn down and just wipe it out and take care of it once and for all, and then we could use a good pre-program and we get rid of Mare's Tail. The problem now is we're using those pre's, we're getting pretty good residual, but mid-season we're getting Mare's Tail to pop
but
up.
in season our best recommendation would probably be First Rate, but I like the Flex Star and Classic, the old Classic. I like that combination too. That'd be really good.
All right, well, the other one is Kochia, Brian. That one's getting to be a tough one, especially in the northern and
Not
western.
getting to be a tough one. It already is and has been for a while, and the problem is Cobra is the best thing, otherwise Cadet, and neither one of them is going to give you more than 60 or 70% control, even if the Kochia is only 2 inches tall. You've got to get it early, you got to have the right weather conditions, and you got to do a lot of praying because otherwise it's probably not going to work real great.
One other thing that I should add too with Kochia is we've had good luck in the burn down adding AIM, and there are some areas of the country where there's still soybeans going in. If you're looking for a burn down, that is an awfully nice burn down
It's just it has no residual. All right, well, once again, if you need to have a tank mix partner out there, we suggest that you spray early. You talk to your agronomist about all the different things you're throwing in the tank and get the right adjuvant. You're definitely going to need more than just ammonium sulfate. So you do those things, spray timely, spray when the weather's nice, use flat fan nozzles. You can have fairly decent control, but just don't expect it's ever going to get back to the level of when you first used Roundup and that was killing everything.
Well, one other weed that we didn't get to talk about yet is our Weed of the Week. Can you identify this week's weed?
Looking to maximize yield? Quick Roots from Monsanto Bioegg is a microbial seed inoculant that allows the plant root to explore a greater volume of soil, the key to higher yields. Quick Roots continues to generate yield response on corn, soybeans, wheat, and more, and is applied to the seed so the live microorganisms go right to work enhancing seedling vigor, increasing the uptake of certain nutrients including NPK, and expanding root volume. Maximize yield on your farm this season. Get Quick Roots today.
I've been involved in developing new technologies in agriculture for over 3 decades. The changing times demanded that we develop new and better equipment. Dry powder applications on seed can only be highly successful if they can be easily, effectively, and accurately applied to the target. That's where our company, Changing Times and CT Applicators, come into the picture. The innovative CT Applicators are designed to give you the most accurate application of products such as talc, soybean inoculants, or other dry products. Remember, CT Applicators for the changing times.
Welcome to the 30-second tour of your local Poet plant. Local producers sell us tons of their grain. We grind it, mix it with water and special enzymes. The result is fermented, distilled, and dehydrated until it's 200 proof alcohol. Corn oil is extracted, and protein and nutrients are condensed, dried, and turned into animal feed. bringing our tour to an end with high-protein feed and cleaner-burning high-octane fuel. Visit poet.com to learn more.
With the success of the Case IH Steiger Quad Track and Magnum Road Track tractors, it's no secret why Case IH is the leader of the track. So it wasn't surprising when the competition started imitating us. But only Case IH offers a 5-axle design to give you a smoother ride, more power to the ground, with less berming and compaction. Still, we're flattered. In fact, if we weren't already red, we'd be blushing.
A farmer's attention to detail is what makes the difference. You take the time for service management because you know how vital it is to your operation. You service your field like everything else because soil sampling makes all the difference and gets the results you want. Download the app Soil Test Pro and start grid sampling today. Keep your farm growing strong. The more you test, the more you know.
Over the last couple of years, Darren and I have been talking a lot about soil fertility, mainly because, hey, if times get tough, margins are squeezed, you start looking at, well, what's my biggest expense? My biggest expense or investment, however you want to look at it, is fertilizer. But how much do we know about fertilizer? Okay, we want you to take a great soil test, and that's nice. But how about during the season? All during the season, we want to monitor how our plants are doing. So we use plant tissue analysis, and we suggest you do as well.
When we think about fertility in fields, it has to start with a good soil fertility program. We can't just plan on, foliar fertilizer is going to take care of everything. It's just too hard to time that right. It's too hard to get enough volume of nutrients.
On normal crops, if you're in specialty crops and you have irrigation and you can fertilize 1 or 2 times a week, that's a different deal. But we're talking corn, soybeans, and wheat here.
Yeah, and so I think about it this way. We'll do the best we can with our soil test. We'll get that soil fertility program balanced out the best we think we can. Then we've got to come back with plant tissue analysis. I consider plant tissue analysis the report card for the farmer. It really tells us how good is our soil fertility program, how good are our soils at supplying the nutrients that we need throughout that season. Because we may look and see, there's a lot of parts per million of potassium or phosphorus out in our field, but are they actually getting into our crop when our crop needs it? We've got tie-up issues. We've also got issues with moisture availability. When you think about, we had a drought for 2 or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, depending on where you're at, that's pretty tough for plants to take in nutrients when they don't have the water in the soil to make those nutrients available. So as we're watching that plant grow throughout the season, we can track it with plant tissue analysis to see, okay, where are we at and what are we short in? Is there something that we can foliar feed? Is there something we need to tweak to next year's fertility program? All those answers we can get from plant tissue analysis. If we don't do it, we're left guessing at harvest time. Hey, I was shooting for 180 bushel corn, I got 160, and what's the answer going to be? If you ask anybody in your neighborhood, they're going to say, well, we just didn't get enough rain, or we didn't have enough heat this year, or something that you can't control. Guess what? There are things that you can control that are going to make that difference in your field. When you look at your yield monitor maps across any of your fields, you're going to see wide fluctuations in yield and see, I had 220 bushel corn in that field, but I also had some 80. What's the difference there? This is where plant tissue analysis comes in.
So if you talk to some of the top yielding farmers in the country, they're going to tell you, hey, we tissue sample once a week, every week throughout the growing season. You can certainly do that. Here's what we found though, and what we do on our own farm. We only sample for 8 to 10 weeks in each crop. The grass crops take up a lot of their nutrients relatively early in the season. So we're going to start as soon as corn and wheat come out of the ground, and we're going to test for 8 to 10 consecutive weeks. And we're going to take the same exact spot and mark it with either GPS or a flag. What we'll do is either using satellite imagery or using our yield maps, we can go select the worst area of the field and the best area of the field, and this is where we always say you should start. Now when we get to the broadleaf crops, we're talking soybeans or sunflowers or something like that, we would say you probably don't need to test that first month. If you want to, go ahead. But what I do is I'd wait a month, from the time those broadleaf crops emerge, and then I would start my 8 to 10 weeks. And what you're going to learn from this is you're going to see the overall trend. And I agree that you can do some foliar feeding, you can do some side dressing, but what we're typically using this for is to make an overall adjustment for our program going into the next year. So now we've got all this data, and yeah, we might do a little bit of tweaking as we go throughout the season, but most of it is to find out, did I do a good job with my soil fertility program? If I didn't, I got to start making changes. What we suggest you do is do the same day every week. Do the same time every time you go out there so you have some consistency. We do Monday, 8 a.m. Okay, we like that time because then we pull those plant tissue samples, put them in a paper bag, and then send them in for analysis. We have the analysis back by Thursday or Friday. So it's great, it's timely, we love it, and it's something that's incredibly important, and it's helped us make a lot more money and get a lot more yield on our farm, and it absolutely can for you as well.
And the other thing too, it's not just about your profitability, it's about our impact on the environment. And if we're out there just guessing at what's going on in our field, and we say, the crop looks a little yellow, let's add some more nitrogen to it. It may not be nitrogen at all. It may be sulfur, it may be a micronutrient, who knows what it is. But we're losing yield, we're wasting money on fertilizer, and we're not doing the right thing for the environment. By just doing a little bit of testing, you're gonna learn so much this year, it's crazy. And all of a sudden you say, wow, I'm using less fertilizer, I'm getting higher yield, and I'm doing a better job for the environment too.
While you're out doing plant tissue sampling, what you might find is our Weed of the Week. We'll tell you how to stop it on your farm, coming up next.
The Weed of the Week is sponsored by the Enlist Weed Control System from Dow AgroSciences, a new herbicide and trait system that will build on glyphosate.
Farming isn't just in the land, it's in you. Take control of weeds like never before. Enlist builds on the Roundup Ready system, combining proven control of a new 2,4-D and glyphosate in Enlist Duo herbicide. Protect what matters without changing the way you farm. Talk to your seed or crop protection supplier today.
Our weed of the week is wild buckwheat. This is a viney weed, kind of similar to field bindweed, ivy leaf morning glory, so control methods will be somewhat similar too. And the big thing I want to stress here is nobody's proven that this weed, wild buckwheat, is resistant to Roundup, but boy, it's tough for Roundup to kill.
All right, when we think about it, the key here is to get it before it vines out. When wild buckwheat first comes up, it's got a simple root structure underneath it rather than the rhizome system that you're going to see under field bindweed. So we've got a simple root, we've got one little plant coming up. That's the perfect time to kill wild buckwheat, and we can do a pretty good job with a lot of different products. However, once it starts to vine out, it gets underneath the crop, it wraps around the crop. It's very difficult to get good coverage on that plant. And many of the products that we're going to use to control wild buckwheat are contact killers. If you don't get good contact all the way across that plant, you're not going to kill every growing point, and you're not going to be happy with your control.
Most broadleaf weeds are easy to control in grass crops like corn. Wild buckwheat is a little bit of an exception because the HPPDs, things like Balance Flex, Loudus, Callisto, Impact, Armazon, they're a little weak. So you're going to need a little bit of atrazine with them or some other tank mix partner that includes dicamba or maybe even just straight old Buctril post-emerge. Pre-emerge, personally, I kind of like Sharpen, that you'd find that in Verdict. You know, Sure Start, Triple Flex, they're okay, but they're certainly not that great.
With wild buckwheat and soybeans, one of the best products that we've found over the years has been Pursuit. Now, Pursuit is in a lot of the premixes that could be used, like Authority Assist, for example. So you could put some Pursuit out pre-emerge. That does a pretty good job on wild buckwheat suppression. You may get some control out of it too in low pressure environments. When we use it post-emerge though, it is pretty effective if we get that timing right. The other product that I really like is FlexStar. That adds some burn, it speeds up the control just a little bit, and it really adds something to that Pursuit or Raptor that you may use to control wild buckwheat and soybeans.
In wheat, we like Sharpen Down, follow over the top with something like Husky if you want, because it's got Buctril in there, or you could go straight Buctril. You could throw in one of the SUs, something like Addition, Tank Mix, and then you'll have pretty decent control.
Wild buckwheat is our weed of the week. Get it under control before it vines out in your fields this year. Well, stay tuned. The Iron Talk is coming up next.
Iron Talk is brought to you by Case IH.
The AFS Connect Farm Management System from Case IH connects you, and only you, to the information you need most from your equipment, from anywhere, at any time. AFS Connect, only from Case IH.
What do you use when you need some light tillage in the spring? There are a lot of choices out there and a number of good ones. I'll share one of the new ones that we experienced this spring in today's Iron Talk. We had torrential rains last June that made a mess in a couple of our strip-till fields that had to be addressed this year. We had to do tillage, but we wanted to leave a good amount of residue on the surface to protect our soils. We used a quick till, which has 2 rows of coulters followed by a rolling basket. Coulters did a nice job of stirring and mixing and left an excellent seedbed for us to plant back into. We're running about 10 miles an hour or better and left a good deal of residue up top, but not too much where it would bother anything. One thing we always recommend when doing any sort of tillage is to brush aside the fluffy soil on top and look underneath to see what kind of tillage floor you left behind. When we first started running the quick till, we had the front gang of coulters running too deep, but adjusting it was very easy, and with the float in the rolling coulters, the machine did an excellent job for us this year. I'm excited to see soybeans growing in a week or so in the fields that we were using the quick till in, because that quick till sure cleaned up an uneven field in a hurry. That's all for today's Iron Talk, and now back to the show.
Looking to maximize yield? Quick Roots from Monsanto Bioegg is a microbial seed inoculant that allows the plant root to explore a greater volume of soil, the key to higher yields. Quick Roots continues to generate yield response on corn, soybeans, wheat, and more, and is applied to the seed so the live microorganisms go right to work enhancing seedling vigor, increasing the uptake of certain nutrients including NPK, and expanding root volume. Maximize yield on your farm this season. Get Quick Roots today.
Wake up, breakfast is served. Your roots crave P. Most of your applied P gets tied up in the soil, a natural phenomenon known as phosphorus fixation. Fix the problem with Avail Phosphorus Fertilizer Enhancer. Avail makes more P available to your roots, here, here, and here. Increasing P availability can lead to increased P uptake in the plant. That's more P, and more P. More phosphorus for your crop can mean more results in your bin. An average of 9.6 bushels per acre of corn. Breakfast is served. Supercharge your P with Avail.
For lower cost, higher production, Mandaco Agri leads with versatility unmatched. Twister is the vertical tillage unit for no-till as well as conventional tillage. Twister's ease of maintenance is forgiving in rocks and has contour conformity equaling 0 downtime. Our hydraulically adjusted coulter angles make residue management easier, less costly. Spring or fall, the Mandaco Twister vertical tillage unit is the new leader. See your Mandaco Agri dealer. Visit northcountrymarketing.biz or call.
We know that the future is liquid. That's how Agroculture Liquid Fertilizer creates the highest quality products on the market. Because we're committed to finding the best raw materials at the best price possible and getting them from us to you in the most sustainable, responsible ways possible. Agroculture Liquid Fertilizers, helping you grow the future.
Stop coring your bins with the AgriDry Gravity Grain Spreader. Traditional bin filling systems create uneven concentrations of grain and fine particulates. Uniform grain distribution allows even airflow throughout the entire bin, giving you more control over temperature and moisture content, increasing your grain quality and bottom line. Call us today for more information.
Dry Load Store, 1-855 AgriDry.
Closed captioning for Ag PhD is sponsored by Norwood Sales.
On your farm, you need speed and year-round effectiveness in your tillage program. The Quick Till from Norwood Sales allows you to move quickly through your fields, maximizing time and improving yield. Constructed of heavy-duty materials, the Quick Till is ideal for both spring and fall applications, from preparing a healthy seedbed early in the season to breaking up corn residue after harvest. For more information about how a Quick Till can improve fields on your farm, call Norwood Sales today.
That's all the time we have for today's show, but before we go, we just want to invite you to tune in to the Ag PhD radio show. You'll find that on SiriusXM Channel 80 at 2 p.m. Central each weekday.
And don't miss out on the next Ag PhD TV. We've got some great things coming up. We also have a Weed of the Week, Farm Basics, Iron Talk, and a whole lot more. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Brian Hefty. Thanks for watching Ag PhD.
While the population of our planet grows each year, the amount of farmland we have to grow food for everyone becomes less. According to the USDA, farmers will need to produce as much food in the next 40 years as they have in the last 500. To learn how they are doing it sustainably, visit the Responsible Nutrient Management Foundation at rnmf.org.